Hello everyone, I'm Ryujin Rising, and this is why Penny Polendina's story is written so well in so many different ways. I will start off with some more general thoughts before running it back and giving a more analytical approach. In Volume 1, Penny's introduction allowed her to gain a surprising amount of development in the Beacon arc, even when, to be honest, nothing in the Beacon arc is too well developed outside of the four main girls because there's just not that much runtime to develop anything. Penny has always been a beloved character, but for what it's worth, she didn't have much of a character back then. In Volume 2, there's this scene.
One day, it will be my job to save the world, but I still have a lot left to learn.
And during the tournament, she tells RWBY this.
I want to stay at Beacon.
Penny, they'll never let you do that.
I know, but I have a plan.
And that's the big thing. That's the part of Penny that gives weight to her death. It's not that someone had made her for a grand purpose. It's that she had a lofty goal that she set for herself in spite of that. And as a real girl in a robot body, she was always someone who could be brought back. When the Atlas arc comes around and tells the story of a kingdom that did everything it could to reclaim itself and move forward after the fall of Beacon, it would be silly for Penny not to be brought back. The people who created her did not get the worth that they wanted out of her. For narrative purposes, there was not a need for Penny to be brought back. I mean, her death impacted the plot well. But bringing her back did not weaken the impact of her death. Rather, the Atlas arc added so much more weight to the life she had before it, mixing well with a good couple narrative themes woven throughout the whole arc. Looking back, the moment of Penny's return to the narrative was way too early to tell whether or not it was a good idea. I mean, even then, I had made a video about her saying that her return is potentially a great idea. Watch it if you want to cringe, because that's what I do when I go back and look at my old work. But largely, the Atlas arc validated me and what I said in that video in so many different ways. Just like any story, literally any story, there's always the potential for poor writing. But the Atlas arc proved time and time again just how much time went into it compared to other portions of the story. Volume 8 has so many great character beats that make it the most character-driven the show has ever been. I definitely think that arguments can be made. Driving things with characters is always the better idea, and there's no shortage of that here. Ren, Ironwood, Blake, Cinder, Penny. Penny's story comes to a fitting end in Volume 8. She's hacked, and during that time, she's unable to make her own choices or live separately from that part of herself. To undo the hack, her body is made human. However, she is still the Winter Maiden and still bears that responsibility, even with the relic outside of the vault. As she bleeds out during the fight against Cinder, she makes the ultimate decision, the ultimate sacrifice, and she makes it for herself and all of Remnant. This is a beautiful culmination of her entire character arc. Atlas is such a well-constructed narrative compared to its predecessors, and I would say that its successes are largely due in part to the relationships between Penny, Winter, and Ironwood. One of the most prominent narratives in all of media these days is the idea of the interplay between fate and destiny. And that is one that shows up in RWBY multiple times. I'd argue that it is the main conflict of the show. How do you defeat an immortal opponent? That is a battle you are fated to lose. And more famously, there's this character arc.
Do you believe in destiny?
I don't know. I guess that depends on how you view it.
When I think of destiny, I don't think of a predetermined fate you can't escape, but rather some sort of final goal, something you work towards your entire life.
Okay, yeah, I can see that, sure.
Pyrrha Nikos accepted the maiden powers to achieve her destiny, and Penny passed them along to achieve hers. So now it's time to run it back. I will go through Penny's story again, this time speaking in terms of destiny, fate, and the 3 bodies she's had, because the symbolism is evident. Penny's character has always been defined as robotic yet fundamentally human. Her robot body symbolically represents her fate, and her human soul symbolically represents her destiny. You will see that as the story progresses, Penny's body reflects who she is internally in different ways. The Beacon Arc's Penny 1.0 lives as a robot completely under Ironwood's eye. Even though Pietro is responsible for building her, and her soul is from his soul, and as her father her wants are his wants, Pietro built her for Ironwood, fated to be under Ironwood's command. Despite outwardly appearing like any human girl, she sees herself as a robot first and foremost, who happens to have the ability to generate an aura, all with the purpose of protecting the world. That is what she thinks of herself, because that is what she was told she is, and she really doesn't have any exposure to anyone beyond Ironwood or Pietro. Ironwood puts a fate onto her, and that is who she is. Then, RWBY tells Penny that her human soul matters more for her identity than the robot body it is controlling, that her soul makes her a real girl. Penny's time with RWBY in these days allows her to see the world beyond her fate, and ultimately, she wants to choose a life, a destiny, where she can stay at Beacon with her new friends. But Penny was built to protect the world. That is her fate, and the discovery of Penny's robot body and subservience to Ironwood is what leads to a battle she was fated to lose. That is Penny's first death. Penny 2.0's Volume 7 and 8 character arc is even more about the interplay between her robot and human side, her fate and destiny. She begins Volume 7 with the title of Protector of Mantle, which Ironwood gave her. She's living out Ironwood's chosen fate for her, but it's important to know that she takes pride in that path, meaning that she does see it, at least somewhat, as her destiny. In taking ownership of that fate, it is symbolically fitting that Penny's new body is visibly robotic, considering her legs and feet. Of course, she does struggle with it. Penny sees doing what she needs to do and wants to do as a goal she wants to work toward. Under Ironwood, she cannot have that. Penny chooses the path of her destiny at Volume 7's end with the death of Freya. Penny's maiden powers are a testament to her humanity, and throughout Volume 8, she continues to walk the path of her destiny, but she struggles even more because her robot side that represents her fate is physically holding her back now. Ironwood ordered Watts to hack Penny, so more than just by his power and authority, Ironwood is now physically responsible for holding Penny's humanity and destiny back. Eventually, Penny's robot body becomes unsustainable for her soul. The fate Ironwood gave Penny can no longer physically coexist with her destiny. Penny 2.0 literally dies on screen with the birth of Penny 3.0, the fully human iteration. This Penny spends the final few chapters acting solely on her desires, her destiny, her humanity. When the plan calls for Penny to take the staff through the portal to Vacuo, there are a couple reasons she chooses to fight Cinder. Not only does she feel she has unfinished business with her, she also wants to be able to make her own decisions now that she has full control of herself. Pietro always believed in this Penny, the Penny who could live her life by her desires, her destiny that was supposed to line up with the fate Ironwood gave her, and did for most of her life, but especially when you consider Penny 1.0 wanting to stay at Beacon. Penny 3.0, the human who gets to live the life she wants, is, as Blake puts it, the girl who's always been there underneath. But sometimes bad things just happen. Penny made a bad decision and actions have consequences. Cinder deals a decisive blow and Penny has to make a call. In death, she has the opportunity to keep the powers of the Winter Maiden away from Cinder, to protect Remnant in some way for a little longer. That is how her story ends. The first time Penny is able to truly live for herself is when she makes the decision to die for everybody else. Penny fulfills her destiny by making the choice to pass the maiden powers along to Winter. It's a shame Pietro never got to see this Penny. It was everything he wanted for her, and at the same time, everything he feared. I do understand the criticism that Volume 8 as a whole needs more time and places to better flesh out everything that it is juggling, which also means that a lot of fights don't really have good effect. But I've never personally minded pacing issues as long as they weren't too jarring. Perhaps that colors how you think of my perspective, and that's all well and good to me. But as much as Volume 8 speeds certain elements along too fast, it gives Penny so much screen time. She is very present throughout the volume, but especially during the first act. Every chapter until she's hacked, the camera likes to spend more time on her at the start or end of the scenes she's in, letting things build or settle with her unable to do her own thing. That's as good of an indication of the importance of her narrative as any. I remember watching Volume 7, loving how much time Penny and Winter have together in solo scenes, their back and forths about duty. Those moments didn't feel entirely necessary at the time, but that's not a bad thing at all. Those scenes defined their characters as two sides of the same coin. They're sharing their journey regarding the difference between robotic and human. As Ironwood's left and right hands, they give us as the audience the best view of what Atlas really is. Part of that being suffocating because of the iron glove that's supposed to be helping them. Volume 8 sees Penny and Winter separated. They are not able to share the journey, but they are both very much still on it together. While Ironwood and the Maiden Powers and the Hack and her father all burden Penny's autonomy, Winter has to carry out orders for Ironwood as the Aesop's new leader. The volume finale gives so much more narrative weight to Penny's and Winter's time together and apart. You can joke throughout the entire arc that one of them is a robot and the other's name is Penny. Then, when Penny calls Winter forth for this scene, Winter just says it. She says she was the robot between the two. The fully human Penny doesn't have much time on screen. Volume 8's final two chapters are so hectic that nobody can get that much screen time. But this scene is well enough of human Penny for me. This scene has Penny experiencing humanity a little more, but with a lot of other things happening. I have to say that both Penny's first and last deaths serve her character well. I know it's twisted, it's morbid, the way Penny ultimately goes out, but on top of it fulfilling her character arc, I see it as Penny correcting and rewriting her life story. History will no longer remember her for dying because she is somebody else's puppet. No. Penny claimed her entire identity with one act. Penny had the power to choose to sacrifice herself to protect the world. That's the story that will get told if it has the chance to. And we see Penny struggle so much throughout the Atlas arc, Volume 8 especially, that we want her to have a happy ending. But that's the thing. She gets one. She gets to have it. It hurts. It's not the ending we want for her, but she gets to have her own happy ending. She fulfilled her destiny. And now she's gone. So, now what? Well, Volume 9 is a field of question marks right now, down to the point that we don't even really know if it's going to entirely be this, or if it's going to have more of Crow's story arc, or some of Vacuo's story. We don't even know what this place is, but we can make some educated guesses. What we do know is that the portal space is located in a place between realms, and one of those realms is likely the afterlife. If Team RWBY and Jean are in the afterlife realm, we could see more of Penny, especially with Ruby's character arc leading more and more pessimistic and the ever-present desire many have for Ruby to break as a character. Penny could serve a lot of greatness for that. Penny's first death served a lot for Ruby's character in the Beacon arc too, pulling her out of her naive optimism in the first place. Penny has always meant so much to her, so she could help guide Ruby back onto the right path. Yet, Volume 8 is the most open-ended volume in RWBY's history, so I hesitate to assume anything. The Atlas arc, though, that's over, and so is Penny. Penny's time during the Beacon arc was short-lived, and the Atlas arc expanded upon her character in so many well-thought-out ways that only added to her death. She lived her entire life, or lives, struggling under Ironwood's fate for her, wanting to choose her own destiny. It's clear that she got her happy ending. So, Penny herself, and the way the show handled her, were both perfectly executed. Thank you again for watching. Perhaps you noticed that much of this video's script is lifted from my Afterthoughts chapter review of RWBY Volume 8 Chapter 12, Creation, when Penny became fully human, though a lot has changed. I knew my chapter review structure couldn't be too comprehensive, so I made that with the intention of turning it into its own video at some point. Once Penny's arc completed, that was all the more certain. I do have a full Volume 8 review on the way, so stick around for that and much more throughout the off-season leading up to Volume 9. Where do you sit with Penny? Is she handled well or poorly? Or have I changed your mind on anything? Do you think she'll show up again, whether in a flashback or if this place does turn out to be the afterlife? Let me know down below. While you're around, like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. I'm RWBY Rising. Have a good one.